Well, hello there once again, ladies and gentlemen, and long time no see. Well, longish time, been a bit over a week, I guess. And that was for a couple of reasons. Number one was, like happens rather frequently, I just got really busy, as life tends to get. And the other thing is, as I'm sure many of you are well aware, E3 was this past week. And, I decided against. Well, I thought about it, but I decided against streaming while E3 was going on because it was like, well, I kind of want to watch as much of it as I can, and I'm sure any of you fine folks viewing probably felt the same way. And that way I'd be able to come back, and before I started streaming anything in particular, which is going to be Oblivion, obviously, as I'm sure you've already seen, I'd give a few of my quick thoughts about the various things that happened on E3. Now, I'm going to have to say up front that I didn't watch all of it, and there's probably scads of stuff I missed. I'm just going to cover the things that I did catch, or the things that I thought were pretty interesting, like things that I am either looking forward to, or would like to see more of, or any such thing. So, let us begin with, seeing as how I'm playing Oblivion, this is going to be fitting enough. Let's start with Fallout 76. Now, of course, I did see the teaser for Fallout 76 that gave us absolutely no information there. I don't know, what was it, last month or something like that? I don't know, something like that. And I was kind of intrigued, but at the same time, you know, I just wanted another Elder Scrolls game, to be honest, which I'll get to that in a minute, because I know that is also a thing. But, okay, Fallout 76, kind of intrigued. I was thinking something along the lines of, hey, maybe it's going to be like when Obsidian used the Fallout 3 game engine, and they made Fallout New Vegas, which is one of my favorite games in the series. So, great. So then we get into the E3 presentation, and first they start off by showing the exact same trailer, which, okay, that wasn't really much more information, but then they got down to the nitty-gritty of the game, and that was fine. Overall, it looks like an interesting setup. I like the idea that you're playing as a character that comes from a vault that was not set up to perform horrific experiments, because due to, according to Fallout lore, Fallout 76 was a Fallout 76. Vault 76 was a vault that was specifically set aside as a control vault. Like, the main task was, after the Fallout died down enough to be survivable, the vault door would open, and people would go out and recolonize, basically. So I think that happens 25 years or something after the events of the game, because 76 is in an area of the states that didn't get hit that badly. As the trailer well shows, on account of the fact that, there's lush landscapes and things. It honestly looks pretty much untouched, aside from the fact that there's nobody around and all the buildings and such are dilapidated. So there's that. So all of it looks really nice. It seems like the base building aspect is going to be more in-depth. I like the idea that you can basically pick up this little camp machine and you can go build bases wherever the hell you want. And the crafting system and all that jazz, I'm sure, is going to be as enjoyable as it was for me in Fallout 4. I know some people had issues with the crafting system, but I kind of liked it. Like, being able to make your own custom guns and things, it was nice. But yeah, I suppose I should get into the thing that makes me kind of nervous about the game, is that it's going to be constantly online. Now, I mean, it might be great, it might be fine. Problem is, I don't really know, personally, a lot of people who would probably get this so I'd be able to play with them consistently. So, that doesn't really work out too well for me. Number two, and I heard other people express these similar concerns, is that I'm kind of afraid it's going to end up being kind of like Rust. Now, I don't know if you've played Rust. I wanted to. I saw stuff about Rust shortly after it came out, however many years ago that was, and it's a survival, crafting, multiplayer thing. It looked really fun, and apparently for the first little while the game was out, it was actually really cool. But basically what's going on now is, okay, apparently the typical Rust game goes, you drop into the map, you play for 5 minutes, you get murdered by somebody who's much more well-to-do than you are, and then they steal all your crap, and then you start over again. And rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. So I'm kind of afraid that Fallout 76 is eventually, or if not immediately, going to become something like that. Which, yikes, no thank you. Now, Todd Howard, the almighty Todd, when he was doing the little spiel about Fallout 76, he did specifically say that you would be able to solo the game, despite the fact that it's, supposedly all multiplayer. I don't know how that's going to work, though, because they didn't specifically say how that was going to work. Naturally, they focus more on the multiplayer aspect because it's this big, shiny new thing for them. I thought I heard afterwards that there were probably going to be, like, private servers that you were able to set up, and that you'd be able to play solo that way. But would you be getting the full experience? Because it kind of seemed as if, like, a lot of the NPCs were not going to be NPCs, it was just going to be other players and interactions and yada-da-da-da, and yeah. The other thing I noted, too, is, like, every scene they showed where you had multiple characters running around, like, playing with each other, there was only ever a squad of 4, so that might be the max number of people you can actually have on your team. I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic, I suppose, is the best way to put it. There's a lot of good stuff in there that I'm really interested in seeing. It's just, I don't know how the multiplayer thing is going to work out. That's going to be the kicker for me. And in terms of that, I'm just glad they didn't jump on the Battle Royale bandwagon like seemingly everybody else has. Because that in a Fallout series would be really stupid. Like, really stupid. This is at least something that makes a bit more sense for the setting. I'll give it that. I was going to sign up for the beta because I was assuming, like, that it'd be like a lot of other games that I've seen have beta programs. It's like you just toss your name in, if you randomly get picked, then you get a copy of it, like a bare bones beta copy of it to test out and help them find bugs and stuff, which, because this is a Bethesda game we're talking about, they got their work cut out for them, I guarantee. But I was going to do that, but then I noticed the only way that you can is if you pre-order the game. So the only way I can sign up for the beta, or anyone can sign up for the beta, is if you buy it. Like, before it even comes out. And in my case, I don't know if I'm actually going to like the game enough to even warrant doing so. And if I was going to pre-order it, I'd probably pre-order one of the fancy special editions, because there's 2. One of them comes with a wearable power armor helmet, which is pretty cool, I have to say. But I live in Canada. The only place you can pre-order the 2 special edition versions of the game are the States. So that doesn't really help me much. So yeah, I don't really have any incentive to pre-order this to get the beta. I'll just wait till it comes out, see how things pan out. That being said, let's dive into a couple other things. The other big thing that looks really neat about the game, I will say, is that it seems like they've got new creatures, which that's kind of neat, because they haven't really had a new variety of monsters in Fallout games for a while. They've just been like variations of pre-existing, like Mirelurks, Super Mutants, Deathclaws, whatever. So, and it seems like they're drawing a lot off of the folklore of the West Virginia area, or the Virginia area of the States, which is cool, because I'm really, keen on different folkloric monsters and stuff like that. That's interesting stuff to me. So one of the pictures they showed was this one. Like this weird, spooky, foggy day with this big-ass flying thing up in the air. Now, a lot of rumors that were flying around at the time, seeing as how they mentioned the folkloric monsters, a lot of people were assuming this thing was a little creature called the Mothman. Now, the Mothman had a lot of sightings in... Oh, damn, I can't remember the specific town. But there were a lot of sightings of the thing dating as far back as like the 1940s or 50s, I think. And then in the 80s, there was this like horrific tragedy where this bridge collapsed and killed a bunch of people, and like the weeks leading up to that, there were a lot of sightings of the Mothman then. And I'm actually going to direct you to a podcast I love listening to. It's called Lore. They do an episode based off of the Mothman. I can't really remember what it's called now, but just look it up. It's good stuff. So yeah, it'd be kind of neat if this was the Mothman. However, there was another creature they showed in their demo that, honestly, it looks like that's probably what it is. It's just... It's kind of hard to tell from that picture, but it's something called a Scorch Beast, which is basically a giant bat. Giant mutated bat that breathes fire. Think like a Fallout version of a dragon, basically. So I kind of think the shadowy creature in this image is actually just a Scorch Beast, although it does kind of look like it's got a couple tiny arms there, so I don't know. I guess we won't find that out until, you know, we see. So they had the Scorch Beast, and, well, just for reference, there is a statue of the Mothman in the town where most of the sightings took place. And this is what the statue looks like. So I don't think that is what the creature is. That's probably not what we're going to be seeing in the finished game. I assume. And apparently there's a creature in the game based off of this critter called a Snallygaster. There's a few different versions of that in various stories, so you know, you can look that up yourself. And that's neat too. And there's something called the Beast of Grafton, which is this large hulking thing that looks like it'd be a hell of a time trying to fight it. The one I'm most excited for, though, in terms of creatures, is this guy. Giant mutated sloth. I have no idea if this is going to be a creature that is going to be deadly. Like, is it going to be something that can try to kill you? Or is it just going to be something along the lines of, say, I don't know, like a Brahmin or something? No, I'm not, well, obviously, like I said, I'm not from, and I've never been to this particular area of the state, so I'm just trying to think to myself now, are sloths, are these sloths native to that area of the states? I don't know. They could be. So yeah, there's that, and moving right along with Bethesda still, they also announced a new sort of Elder Scrolls game called Blades, which looks really nice from the screenshots and gameplay they showed. The sticking point for me on this one is the fact that it's purely a mobile game. Like, you can only play it on, like, just your mobile phones and stuff. Now, I think they did say they were going to try to bring it to as many platforms as they could after the fact, kind of like what they did with Fallout Shelter. Because much like Fallout Shelter, this game is free. And you can't see me doing it, but I'm doing air quotations right now, because also like Fallout Shelter and most other free-to-play mobile games, there's a lot of microtransactions. But, well, there may be microtransactions, is the rumor, or maybe it was confirmed floating around. But hey, I mean, the game is free. I'm definitely going to get it when it comes out. As a matter of fact, this one I did sign up for the beta for it, because, you know, there's no pre-requirements for this one. Oh, that's another thing, too, about Fallout 76 I've heard recently. Apparently there's going to be microtransactions in that, too, and I'm not keen on that. However, they do say the only stuff you can spend legitimate money on in Fallout 76 is just cosmetic clothing items and all that jazz. Maybe, like, building materials, I don't know, something. And, anything that you can buy, you can also just earn by going through the progression of the game naturally anyway, so that's not too big of a deal. Not too concerned about that. But yeah, Blades looks pretty neat. They didn't really say what point in the timeline this takes place, but apparently it takes place during a point in the timeline when the Blades have been exiled from Cyrodiil or something, and you have to rebuild your town. You populate it with NPCs. The more NPCs you get, you populate the town with, you go on quests, yada yada. Because it seems like it's done in a first-person perspective, it kind of looks a lot like the older Elder Scrolls games, like Arena and, I think, who's it? Thingy? Why am I forgetting the name of the second one? Daggerfall. There we go. Like, kind of like Arena and Daggerfall. So, you know, it looks like it might be okay. But, you know, I'm not going to be able to judge that until it actually comes out. Oh, another one that they announced, of course, was Starfield, the sci-fi spacefaring game that Bethesda is doing. They didn't have any information for that aside from a logo, and I'm all I can assume is that it's going to be along the lines of like an Elder Scrolls or Fallout RPG, except set in like a space setting. So think like a futuristic setting where things didn't go to shit like they did in the Fallout universe. So yeah, can't really say anything about that one yet until we get more information on it. And speaking of, the big one for me, Elder Scrolls 6. And this is all we got from Elder Scrolls 6. This and, like, the title. But not even, like, Skyrim or Oblivion or whatever. It's just Elder Scrolls 6. Now, there's been a lot of speculation as to where this game may take place. They might do something as ambitious as, again, going back to Arena, the original Elder Scrolls game. You were able to travel the whole continent in that game. Obviously, it wasn't as pretty looking, because this is a game that came out back in the 90s, early 90s, I think. I can't remember exactly when. Or, well, you know, like the more recent Elder Scrolls Online, where you can travel to different provinces. It might be something like that. Personally, I don't think so, because they're probably going to try to be a bit more specific and streamlined with it, as they were with their other games, where they either took place in just one province or a specific area of one province, like in Morrowind. DLC notwithstanding. So the question remains, where is this? It seems unlikely to me as if it's going to be outside of the continent of Tamriel. Yeah, Tamriel is the continent, Nirn is the planet. Because there was an April Fool's joke flying around a few years ago about how the Elder Scrolls 6 was going to take place in Akavir, which is a completely different continent that gets referenced a bunch of times with all kinds of freaky-deaky races and stuff. But nah, that probably isn't going to happen, I'd say. Sadly, be interesting. No, for me, in my opinion, the top two contenders for where this could be, due to the fact that it's a very rocky, kind of highland-looking place, is that it's either going to be High Rock, because the place from Daggerfall, because there was a variety of different land types there. So it could be High Rock, but honestly, I'm not even thinking that, because they've already done it once. So, and this is me speculating, I imagine they're going to want to try to diversify and go to a completely new place that they haven't touched yet. So in that case, I'd say there's very good odds it might be Hammerfell, where the Redguards come from, because while Hammerfell is largely desert, the areas along the coast are said to be at least slightly more lush and very rocky and mountainous, which is exactly what this looks like, and you can kind of see what looks to be an ocean or something over here. So this might be around the Iliac Bay region, which is also pretty close to where Daggerfall took place. Because I think one side of the Iliac Bay is Hammerfell and the other side is High Rock or something like that. And I look forward to seeing more information about it. We can't say anything for sure until we get more information about it, but I'm just glad they're not remaking Skyrim again. I mean, I love Skyrim. Well, I love most of the Elder Scrolls games, but the game came out 7 years ago now. Almost 7 years ago. It's been re-released umpteenth million times. I mean, I kind of like the idea of owning it on the Switch, but so far I absolutely refuse to buy it until it drops in price. I mean, portable Elder Scrolls is great, but I don't, yeah, no, I'm not paying top dollar for a game that I already own technically 3 copies of, because I own the PS3 version, I own the PC version, and then I got the special edition on the PC for free, because I owned it. Which was good on them, I guess. But no. Although I like how self-referential they were about this, because one of the first things Todd Howard said when he came out on stage talking about, well, even before he went into Fallout, he said, is like, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking is like, what platform are we going to put Skyrim on next? And then they have this joke video about how they're putting Skyrim on, like that little Alexa thing, and like an Etch-a-Sketch and a smart fridge and things. So yeah, at least they know. But no, Elder Scrolls 6, finally happening, thank God. Probably not going to get it for another few years, and probably not even on this generation of consoles. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I'd like to see it. Now the next big one, which I didn't even realize was happening, but holy crap, am I excited for it now. It might be one of the things I'm most excited about now, is Resident Evil 2. they're finally remaking Resident Evil 2. Which is funny. Well, no, not really, I guess, because they remade the first one. But they didn't do this or 3, so yeah, well, maybe we'll eventually get one for 3 as well. And that'd be cool. Now, personally, Resident Evil 2 is probably one of my favorite games in the series, just because there was so much stuff you could do in it, and both of the characters, like, playable characters, were really cool, unlike in the first game, where, I mean, you had 2 playable characters, but I'll be perfectly honest, I don't like Chris Redfield. I really don't. He's useless, in my opinion. Jill's okay. But Chris, nah. So Chris was pretty much useless, and then in Resident Evil 5, he had to, like, go into full roid rage mode, and that made him just ridiculous, and I don't know. I think he appears in DLC for Resident Evil 7. Maybe my opinion will change on him if I see that, but whatever. But no, I like Resident Evil 2, I thought had a great story, as cheesy and ridiculous as it was, because it's a Resident Evil game. And the 2 main bosses, Mr. X and the mutated William Birkin, they were really cool, and like all the settings, and it was the first game I remember playing that scared the legitimate bejesus out of me. Except for maybe, I think it was another game called The Uninvited that was on the NES. It's kind of like a point-and-click puzzle game. Yeah, that was pretty creepy too. Like the skeleton lady who ripped your face off. Anyway, I'm digressing. Resident Evil 2 looks pretty nice. And I don't know why I got so excited about this, but this man, Kenneth Branagh, he's back again, and they featured him in the trailer for it. And this is like a good indication of how awesome the character models look. Because it's a really... It looks like they really rebuilt the game, as opposed to just doing like a slapdash new coat of paint, and that's it. Because I saw some gameplay trailers for it, and it seems as if they're going with the same playstyle from, well, Resident Evil 4 onwards, I guess, basically. But it's not first-person crap your pants thing from Resident Evil 7. It looks like they're sticking with that, which is fine. I mean, I know a lot of people hated the tank controls and the isometric camera, or was it isometric? Whatever the camera style was in the first few games. A lot of people hated that. I kind of liked it because it added the tension, but I really enjoyed Resident Evil 4. 5 and 6, not so much. But Resident Evil 4, gameplay-wise, was great. So I'm happy they're doing that. And poor Kenneth, as good as he looks right here, yeah, things still probably aren't going to end well for him. But I'm glad that it looks like they're keeping everything in the game. Because another thing they mentioned, too, is that there was a extra playable section in Resident Evil 2, where you're played as this guy named Hunk. He was the guy who went in, he was a guy who worked for Umbrella who went in and stole a sample of the virus and had to escape. And this other character called Tofu, which was just a giant block of tofu who had to escape the same route Hunk did. Just silly fun, basically. And there was a short but memorable sequence that involved a giant mutated alligator in the game, and apparently it's been confirmed that is going to stay in there too, and good. It looks like they're not cutting anything out. They're just rebuilding the whole game, and it's just going to have everything still in it, and that's fine. And speaking of Mr. X, I caught a brief glimpse of him in the trailer, and I had to track down a picture of him, but he looks so good in this remake, and they even gave him a fancy hat. He did not have that fancy hat. Mr. X is probably the thing, this tyrant class of creature that hunts you down looking for samples of the G-Virus. He is probably one of my favorite tyrant class, like tyrant type enemy in the Resident Evil series, simply because, I don't know, Resident Evil 2 was the first one I played, and it was one of the first games that really scared the crap out of me, and Mr. X is a large reason why, because it's probably not that big of a deal now, but at the time, you gotta understand that an enemy, a boss enemy like this, that you couldn't completely kill, being able to track you down, like it was actually following you from place to place, that was a big thing at the time. It's not like you fight him in this individual room and then after that you're safe again. No. One of my best memories, and horrific memories, from Resident Evil 2 is fighting Mr. X here in a press conference room. And I can't remember if I managed to down him or if I just ran away. And I ran out and I ran along this wall to try to get to another wing of the police station. that ran alongside of the conference room, and then the motherfucker just shoulder blocks his way through the wall and tries to kill me. I could not stop screaming. It was amazing. So I'm glad that they gave him like this complete makeover thing and just makes him look even more. I mean, look at that face. It's so uncanny valley. It's great. And well, I'm not gonna yammer on too much more about E3, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention the big thing with Nintendo, and that is the new Smash, which apparently has everybody in it. Like, every single character that's been in the series so far, and I mean, even the third-party characters, which is great. I'm glad Solid Snake is back. I'm even more glad that apparently it's been confirmed that David Hayter is voicing the lines for Solid Snake. So it's like, you got Snake, you got Mega Man, you got Ryu, you got Bayonetta, you got Pac-Man, of all people. And like, every past character that has been taken out of the series is back again. So you got like Ice Climbers, you got Roy, you got... it's just so many people. It's great. And I'm kind of excited for this one because I haven't owned a Smash Brothers since Melee for the GameCube. So this is probably going to be a must-buy for me when it comes out. And the other funny thing, you can see him in this picture, but they devoted an honestly... a trailer that seems like it could have been straight up out of a horror movie to their new combatant, Ridley. Freaking Ridley from the Metroid series. And the reason why this is so goddamn funny is because I know that for years people have been trying to get them to add Ridley to the game, but then it ended up becoming this running gag that Ridley is apparently too big. Which they made reference to, because when they did the title splash when he shows up in this video, it says Ridley finally hits the big time or something like that. It's nice to see they have a sense of humor about it. But if you haven't looked it up, look up the trailer for this, because it's pretty creepy. It's just like Samus and her unlikely allies, Mario and Mega Man, walking through this catwalk, hunting something. And then Ridley here leaps from the shadows, and before you even see him, he picks off both Mega Man and Mario. Looks like he straight up kills him. I mean, it looks like he grabs Mario by the face and breaks his neck. Like, the sound effect they use for that is horrific. And then in taunting Samus, he pops down and just starts twirling Mario's hat around his talon like that. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Anyway, though, that's like the main things for me for E3. Now, I know Nintendo announced a bunch of other stuff, like we're getting a new, like, proper Fire Emblem game for the Switch, which I'm kind of excited about as well, because I like those games. The Dynasty Warriors type game that they released for it, not so much. Last of Us 2, they showed a gameplay trailer for that. And I know a lot of times the gameplay trailers you see at E3 can be bullshit, but I have faith that Naughty Dog didn't, you know, screw with us too badly. Especially since a lot of the combat mechanics in the trailer seem pretty similar to the original Last of Us, which is not a complaint, because I love the gameplay in that game. It looks like it's that, but a little bit more. That's fine. The crowd that made the Witcher series is doing a Cyberpunk game, which looks interesting, but I don't really know much about it. And honestly, I haven't played much of the Witcher series. I just know the CD Projekt Red has quite the pedigree now. Like, they're a fairly well-loved developer. And there was some other stuff, but I'm blanking on it now. These are just the things that I got most excited about. And like I said, I didn't see all of E3.